Yesterday, you looked at different versions of Grendel's story, the Burton Raffel translation and the Robert Zemeckis film. Today, you're going to write a paragraph analyzing the author's choices for these two texts. Here's the prompt. In a well-written paragraph, analyze Raffel's and Zemeckis' representation of Grendel and the monster's function in each version of Beowulf. Use evidence to explain how Grendel is characterized and his role in each text and the author's purposes for these portrayals. So I've given you the 8-part paragraph format. You should have seen this in the past. This is just a template that you can use, and all of these pieces you can combine into multiple sentences or into just one sentence for the pieces. The first thing you have to start with in a paragraph is always the topic sentence. Your topic sentence must state your main claim that the whole paragraph is going to prove. Next, you'll have 2 quote sandwiches. You start a quote sandwich by embedding your first piece of evidence. Make sure it is embedded into the sentence. You're not going to put the quote in by itself. It has to be in a sentence with your own words that has the context for your quote. Next, in the quote sandwich, notice you have 2 sentences here with explanation and commentary for your one quote. The first sentence after the quote, you need to explain how the evidence you just inserted proves your topic sentence, proves your claim. This is where you'll identify the pattern in the assignment, in your claim. So for our prompt today, the pattern that you're looking for is Grendel's role in the story. So your definition of him as either a victim, villain, or a monster. The next sentence is your commentary. This is where you'll comment on the larger ideas present in your evidence, and this was where you'll address the author's purpose. So you've proven to me that Grendel is just a victim, villain, or a monster. Now you have to tell me, why did the author choose to make him that way? Then you'll have your second quote sandwich, this one for the film. You'll go through that same process. And then your conclusion sentence, part 8, this is where you'll address both of the texts together. So why did these 2 authors choose to portray Grendel this way? Sentence 8 will always address author's purpose. I've given you an outline to follow for this. So you'll start with your thesis statement that makes a claim related to the prompt. In this case, this should address Grendel's roles as either a victim, villain, or monster, or some combination of the 3. Your first quote sandwich is about Raffel's translation. So you'll embed your first piece of evidence that shows how Grendel is characterized. Then you'll explain how that piece of evidence proves that he is either a victim, a villain, or a monster. So the role is talking about victim, villain, or monster here. And then the last sentence for the quote sandwich is the author's purpose. So you've proven to me that he's either a victim, villain, or monster. So why did that translator choose to portray him that way? Then you'll go through the same process for the film. So what is some evidence? So these are going to be details from the movie of how Zemeckis characterizes Grendel. What does that evidence say about him as either a victim, villain, or monster? So what's his role? And then the author's purpose is, why did that film director choose to portray him that way? The last sentence is going to be a brief discussion of why these 2 different versions of Grendel's story are so different. Notice that we've got this color coding. Any evidence, so facts straight from the story, will be blue. When you're discussing the pattern, which in this case is Grendel's role, victim, villain, or monster, that's going to be green. And when you're talking about why the authors chose to do it that way, author's purpose, that will be yellow. I've given you a sample here that I wrote about 2 different versions of Medusa's story. Notice the color coding throughout. So in the thesis, through countless retellings of the story of Medusa over the last 2 millennia, storytellers have characterized her as a victim, villain, or monster, and different combinations of all 3. Notice that I've addressed the role here, that's why it's green. Then I've got evidence in blue. In the green sentence following the evidence, I'm explaining why does that evidence prove that she's, in this case, a monster. And then in the sentence after that one, I talk about what was the author's purpose for portraying her that way.